Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to talk about the Dark Element and their brand new record, Songs the Night Sings, out November 8 on Frontiers Music. The album has 11 tracks, 55 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length album. In my opinion, this album is absolutely magnificent. I had really high expectations coming in. Based on the first two singles that they released, I loved them both. The bar was set really high. I just really felt drawn into those two tracks. I really like what they did there, and they set the bar so high for me going into this record that I didn't know if the album was going to live up to my own expectations or to my perceived expectations that I had of the record. Not only it lived up to it, it surpassed it, because I really feel like this album is a more mature sound, is a heavier sound, is a more dynamic sound, and overall the album works extremely well. This is still a symphonic power metal album, I have no doubt about that, but it's almost like an octopus. It has multiple tentacles. So even though symphonic power metal is perhaps the main spinal cord of the album, the DNA of the album, those tentacles really reach out into other branches. They really reach out into other genres, and they draw influence from those genres into the songs here, which allows the album to really expand on its sound, go into different directions, and not be held back by one specific genre, by one specific style. To me, that's very important. You're going to find things like poppy like hooks in the chorus that makes the song really memorable. You're going to find things like 80s synthesizer vibe, sometimes even a little bit of a disco vibe, or a little bit more of a cabaret jazzy vibe in some tracks. There's a lot of things being offered to you. There's a lot of influences being offered to you that really dictate where the songs go within this record. But that to me is the beauty of the album. It really allows the album to have this larger than life sound, really expand beyond what they did with the previous record, and have an album that overall feels a lot heavier than what it really is, because it hides it really well. To me, this is an album from a structural perspective. I really like what they did. They alternated songs that had different tempos, that had different feels, that had different moods. This is an album that does not start, from a structural perspective, does not start peaking from the first track all the way up, then drop in the middle with a ballad, and then starts to peak right back again towards the end of the record. That's not how this album is built. Sure, there are ballads, there are songs that are more stripped down, there are songs that are more melodic, not as impetuous, but this is an album that, in my opinion, is almost like a ripple effect in a lake when you throw a stone in. It just has these smooth waves. The changes that happen throughout each track, and then overall in the full spectrum of the record, are very minimal, so you don't really feel like there's this abrupt change from going all the way up and then just dropping all the way down. So you feel like there's changes from song to song as far as the dynamics of each individual track, but they're very subtle. They're very subdued, so you don't necessarily feel an abrupt change from track to track. You're kind of eased in with every single song. So that to me is one of the magnificent aspects of this record. It allows the album to be very eclectic. It allows the album to have a very dynamic sound without really having breaks in between the songs, without having songs that feel completely disconnected one from the other. That is key for a record like this. Another dynamic aspect that I really enjoyed about this record is the overall sound that it has. It just has a really captivating sound. It just has the ability to really hold you in and never let you go on any single track. It doesn't matter if the mood changes. It doesn't matter if the tempo changes. The sound there's certain components in the sound that stay true throughout the whole album. I really feel, from a guitars and drums perspective, this is a much heavier album, much heavier than it looks, like what I said earlier, because the melodies around it hide it so well that sometimes you don't even notice how heavy the song is because it's so melodic. But that to me is another way of creating music that has impact, that has a really strong backbone, a lot of that makes the music overall feel a lot thicker. It has a bigger wall of sound without being necessarily in your face. You can create a heavy album without having to be necessarily in the listener's face. This album does that. Sometimes the heaviness is hidden by the melody, but it's still there. And when the melody drops out, you can really feel how heavy the drums and the guitars are in certain key moments of certain songs. I really like that aspect. I really like the fact that they hide sometimes that heaviness, but they never take it away, unless we're talking about a ballad here and there, where obviously it's a more stripped down song. It has a different feel, a different atmosphere, so in those cases obviously it will be played out differently. But when you look at the overall picture of the album, this is an album that has a very heavy backbone, just hides it extremely well. Now, another thing that I like about the overall feel of the record is how they threw certain songs in there that had very different momentums, that had different feels, that had different textures to it. I will start with To Whatever End. great ballad comes in the middle of the album, and then they finish off the album with I Have to Go, a song that has a little bit of a cabaret jazz style to it. That speaks to the overall structure of the album. Normally, bands do not put songs as soft as I Have to Go as their closing track. They start to mix those in more towards the middle, as what they did to Whatever End, which is a song is like a really stripped down ballad. That song fits perfectly in the middle, but where it's placed between the two songs that come before and after, it really blends in well, so you don't feel this abrupt drop in the middle of the record. You feel a little bit of a slight drop, but not an abrupt drop. But finishing off with I Have to Go, it's really something that surprised me. You just don't see a lot of bands doing that. But as you look back to the overall record, as you look back to the first song all the way to the song number 11, you start to realize that overall feel that this album has, that it's very dynamic from that perspective, very up and down, very subtle. So from that overall perspective, it's not a surprise that they finished they finished the album with a song like I Have to Go, a very different track that, like I said, you can put 100 albums together, you're not going to find a song like that closing off an album, but I really like what they did here. It has a little bit of a curtain call feel to it, so it works really well with the overall style, with the overall sound that this record has to offer. Last but not least, I want to talk about Annette's voice. Her vocals were the perfect conduit for the music that was offered on this record. I almost don't know if the songs are created to get the most out of her voice, or if her voice gets the most out of the songs. I think it's a little bit of both worlds. I'm not sure which one gets the bigger percentage, but I really feel the songs and her voice really merge well together. She really carries a lot of the tracks on her own with her vocals. Absolutely phenomenal performance. She has incredible voice on full display on this album. I really feel the two things are interconnected. She makes the album better, and the songs on the album make her sound even better. It's a combination of these two things. I honestly cannot put my finger on which is which, so I'm just going to go with a combination of the two. But her voice is absolutely phenomenal, flawless on this record. It really elevates the sound, it elevates the overall feel that the album has, and it really pushes this album forward, making it a huge leap forward from the previous record that they released. Now, as far as songs are concerned, I picked 3 songs that were not the singles, but 3 songs that I really enjoyed for different reasons. I want to start with Nyira Monster. This is the opening track of the record, and to me, this is a very important track. For the listener going in, this is the first song they're going to listen to. You want a song that really captivates your attention. You want a song that really drives you into the record and really allows you to ease yourself in. This song had, in my opinion, a lot of similarities to The Ghost and the Reaper. So from that perspective, that is it's a great way to start off this album, because you're starting off the album with a song that kind of reaches back into the past. It reaches back into a song that's very memorable. A lot of fans obviously know that song. It's a really iconic song from the first album. So by having a song that opens up this album that has a lot of the same elements of The Ghost and the Reaper, to me is the perfect opening. It's almost like starting off with The Ghost and the Reaper. You're starting off with a song that's just going to sound familiar to the fans. And that to me is the best way to introduce a new album to the fans. You don't want to start off with, like, if they started off with a song like Get Out of My Head, I'm not sure if that would have the same impact. So I really like the fact that they started off with a song that kind of pulls back into a very not so distant past and allows the fans to kind of ease themselves into this brand new record. It's a powerful, heavy driven, great tempo to this track. I like the slow build up, but then the power really picks up quickly with this song. It really blends melody with heaviness, and this is one of those tracks that really blends those two elements. It really gives a feel of the song of this up and down all the way throughout, very subtle up and down feel. It just gives the song a great dynamic overall vibe to it. The chorus is very melodic, very powerful, very catchy, very hooky, very popish, and all those elements together really make for a good chorus. There's a great keyboard melody with the pounding drums that really work together. I really like how the drums are so heavy and they're almost hidden. Sometimes they get buffered in and they get hidden by how melodic the overall track is. I really like that aspect. This is a song that it closes off almost as it starts, so it goes full circle. Perfect opening track. I don't think they could have picked from the 11 tracks a better opening track than this one, because it's a song, like I said, for fans, it's just going to feel very welcoming to the record because it's going to have a sound that they're already familiar with. Next one is To Whatever End. This is a beautiful ballad, comes in the middle part of the record. Perfect spot for this song because the album had ups and downs, very subtle ups and downs. This is perhaps the biggest drop that you're going to get on the record, but it's a song that works. It works on all fronts. Beautiful ballad. It starts off with a stripped down piano melody. and Annette's voice comes in, and it's absolutely magnificent. She really carries the song from the beginning all the way to the end. This is a song that's really driven by her voice, and in the chorus it becomes very intense. It gains a little bit more intensity. It almost gains energy as it gets to the chorus, as it should. The piano melody is always there, sometimes more hidden in the background, sometimes more in the forefront, but the piano melody is always there. It always plays a big role within this song, and I really like the melody that it has. Like I said, the chorus has a little bit more intensity, is a little bit stronger, but that separates it from the verses, and it creates a very good dynamic for the overall track. I really like the lyrics on this song. I really like the emotion that the lyrics have and the emotion that Annette puts in that performance. She really brings those lyrics to life in this song. She really gives life to this song. When you look at this track, it's all about the keyboards and all about her voice being number one. She is the shepherd, and the keyboards, if you will, that melody is really the sheep that just follow her from the first note to the last note. Last but not least, Get Out of My Head, a song that has a lot of different moving parts. The song overall, in my opinion, is very popish, has a really poppy feel to it. Sometimes almost an 80s pop vibe to it, but it works really well. It works really well in the overall picture of the album, and it works very well within itself. It's a song that has catchy moments, specifically in the chorus. The chorus is very easy to remember. There's 2 or 3 lines in the chorus that they're going to be stuck in your head. You're going to be singing them along. So from that perspective, it's a song that has a very good approach. The song picks up intensity as it reaches the chorus, and the simplicity of the lyrics really help with that picking up of intensity. I really feel that way about this song. One of the key components of this track is after the second chorus, you get this 80s synth melody that then merges more into a keyboard-driven power metal melody, and then the song comes full circle and it finishes off as it starts. But that middle part there was really intriguing, was really interesting. I really like what it did to the song. It almost breaks the song into 2 separate tracks, because it's very different. The melody that you get from the synthesizer in that middle piece there is very different from anything you heard up until that point and anything you will hear after that point. So I really like that almost instead of inserting a guitar solo in that spot, they inserted this 80s driven synth melody that it works extremely well. It really works with the song. It almost pulls the atmosphere that the song has into that melody and then gives it back out to you. Really interesting track, really dynamic track, really an earworm of a track. One of the more catchy tracks on the album for sure. Alright guys, this is it. This is the Dark Element Songs the Night Sings, out November 8th on Frontiers of Music. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles, on the album. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.